अच्छा अच्छा ठीक है कोई नहीं. So my name is Satya Prakash, and in political science and international relations optional, I take the classes of Indian government and politics, okay, and the comparative politics. So how many of you are from pol science optional? मतलब you are thinking of giving this exam, right? UPSC सभी लोग दे रहे हैं, planning of giving. Target year 28 है. Anybody for 26, 27? आप 27 के लिए ठीक है. And anybody who is having optional other than political science, आपका psychology, आपका geography, psychology, ठीक है. Rest are आपका sorry philosophy. Perfect. So today we are going to start this book, Indian Constitution at Work. Basically the polity that you will have to read. In general studies syllabus, you know that this part is useful in general studies paper 2. Okay, in general studies paper 2 it is useful. Those who are having political science as the optional, for them this is useful in paper 1 section B, that is Indian government and politics. Okay, now this part is even more useful if you go beyond the exam also, because after selection of all the things that you are going to read, जिनका geography optional है, psychology, mathematics, anything, of all the things that you're going to read in general studies or in optional, probably one subject which is essential and which will have real practical implication during the services would be the polity, because at the end of the day, whether in the administrative service, police service, even in the foreign service and other services also, at the base lies the constitution, the basic document which runs this country. So a fundamental understanding of that document is required. Okay. कोई NCERT book मेरे को दे सकता है क्या? The if you don't have to. Thank you. So write the name of the first chapter: Constitution, Why and How. Constitution, Why and How. So you recognize this book, Constitution of India. What is a constitution? If you have to define, simplest definition constitution का क्या हो सकता है? What is a constitution? Supreme law of the land. When you read the constitution, what can you expect? आप मान ले आपने अभी पढ़ना नहीं start किया, you have that document. So before reading that, what is your expectation? कि constitution में क्या लिखा होगा? Basically क्या लिखा होता है constitution? Rights, duties and restrictions on the state. ठीक है. Anything else? बस इतने से इतना बड़ा डॉक्यूमेंट बन जाता है. India's constitution is world's longest constitution, isn't it? What else is written in the constitution? Working of bureaucracy. ठीक है. Till certain, and what ensures social, economic and political justice. ठीक है. Now in the political theory, जो मैम ने briefly पढ़ाया होगा, initially when people were not thinking of living together, they were just living randomly, that particular state was called as the state of nature. ठीक है, कोई rule नहीं था. Okay, the only rule was that whosoever is powerful will be in the position of dominance, rest will have to accept it. That is the state of nature. If you have read about thinkers, then there's a thinker called Thomas Hobbes. He describes the state of nature as a state wherein everybody is in conflict with everybody. Everybody is fighting with everybody. And the life is nasty, poor, brutish and short. कोई particular order नहीं है. So that was what we call as the state of nature, wherein there is complete anarchy. And there's only one rule, that whosoever is the most powerful will establish his dominance. But as we moved from state of nature to a civilized society, then clearly we wanted some kind of rules. For example, आप रोड पे चलते हैं, whether on the road connecting roads, national highway, national expressway, you are moving on the left side. ये rule है. Just imagine कि ये rule नहीं होता, then probably there would have been many more accidents, क्योंकि पता नहीं चलता. सामने से कोई गाड़ी आ रही है, आपको पता है कि आपको लेफ्ट जाना है, and that person will go on his left and there will be safely, you will pass each other. But if this rule is not with you, then it may result into confusion and many accidents. So the fundamental rule of the land is the constitution. So when we think of making any community, take for example even a family, a big joint family. Let us say there are 5 brothers, 2 sisters, total 7 in a big joint family. Now what are going to be the priorities? What are going to be the budget allocation? ठीक है, यदि पढ़ाना है तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एक को PhD लेवल तक पढ़ाएंगे, दूसरे को प्राइमरी तक ही पढ़ाएंगे. So what are going to be the rules of the family? If a certain level of nutrition is to be maintained, then what will be that source of nutrition? So starting from family to any community, even the resident welfare association, कोई आप society में रहते हैं, so there is a body called RWA, which is making all the rules that what all expenditure are going to have. Similarly, when India is getting independence in 1947, we can imagine that now we are moving from state of nature. ऐसा भी नहीं था कि वहां पे there was a conflict of everybody against everybody, but one problem was there, that it was not our power, it was not popular sovereignty. Somebody else was making law for us from London and we were getting ruled by that. But when India is getting independence in 1947, only the half work has been done. There's no point getting independence if you cannot sustain it. And if you read about the world history, there have been many examples wherein independence was achieved, but it transformed into anarchy. Even take example of France. French Revolution से तो पहले क्या हुआ, 1789. But we see that the French Constitution that they made in the tennis court, आपने यदि थोड़ा सा हिस्ट्री का पढ़ा होगा, so there was a revolution in 1789 and people who participated, they sat in the tennis court and they made a constitution. Now just imagine, it appears to be so revolutionary कि वहीं के वहीं बैठ के उन्होंने constitution बना दिया. But making of the constitution has to be a deliberative process. It cannot be completed in 24 hours or 5 days, 6 days. It will take time. And if it will not take time, it will not sustain. So when in India we got independence on 15th of August 1947, the next work was that in future, where is that document which will help us administer this country? And for that, the Constituent Assembly worked for more than 2 years and then we framed the Constitution. So the simplest definition of the Constitution is that it is a rule book which is telling us about the objectives of the country, हमारे priorities क्या हैं. It is telling us about the nature of the state. It is telling us about the source of power, and it is telling us about the structure of the administration. ठीक है, so basically when you read constitution, at least 4 things आपको पता चलते हैं, ठीक है. I'll make you write, अभी थोड़ा I'll make you write, ठीक. So first thing we come to know about the objectives or the aspirations of the country. Objectives क्या है? You want a democratic country. What you want to achieve? If you're saying that objective is justice, social, economic, political. The preamble, if you see the first few lines, it says that justice, social, economic, political. This is an objective. अब what happens is कि preamble जब हम पढ़ते हैं तो इस लाइन को simply पढ़ जाते हैं, हमें लगता है कि इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात, justice, social, economic and political. Why we feel so? Because we are born in that age wherein political justice तो होता ही है, social justice होता ही है, economic justice एक level पे होता है. We are born in the age wherein we find that right to vote में कौन सी बड़ी बात, right to vote तो होता ही है, universal adult franchise तो होता ही. But go back to the time of 1947 wherein people struggled for 100 years to get this right to vote. So what is written in the Indian Constitution in Article 326, what we call as the universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise. Emphasize on this single word, universal. हमें लगता है it is granted, ये तो normal चीज, it's not normal. France 1789 the French Revolution is happening. It was only in 1946 that all women in France were given right to vote. 1946. So in other countries it was not universal. It was only in 1960s that blacks in America in all states were given right to vote. So it is not universal in every country. If in India the constitution makers decided that it would be universal adult franchise, in itself was a revolutionary step. And that's why one of the scholars say that in India the constitution is not the result of revolution. कोई violent revolution नहीं हुआ था हमारे, the way it happened in France or in China. So in India the constitution is not the result of a violent revolution. The constitution itself is revolutionary. If you go into the pages of the constitution itself is revolutionary. कैसे revolutionary है? Universal adult franchise. In a society wherein women are not considered equal, वहां पे आप बराबरी ही नहीं दे रहे हैं बल्कि स्पेशल प्रोविजन भी दे रहे हैं. In the Indian Constitution we have Article 15 Clause 3 which says that children and women they must have special provision. Now go back to 1947. In that society wherein women were just expecting कि बस बराबरी मिल जाए, संविधान ने न केवल बराबरी दी बल्कि it also provided positive discrimination. Second thing, in a society which was completely ridden with the caste system, wherein certain sections were considered as, forget about being considered as equal, they are being considered as untouchable. कि यदि आपने टच किया तो you will become impure. In fact, you will read in history that the so-called untouchables, they used to travel with, there used to be some kind of thorny bush in their hands, and when they will walk they will broom aside, क्योंकि ऐसा माना जाता था कि once they are walking on that path that is becoming dirty, so they have to clean it so that somebody from the upper caste who could walk on that, they would carry a pot in their with their body so that if they are spitting it should be in that pot, not here and there. Why? Because they are impure. So think that in a society wherein some people are being considered as untouchables, the constitution does not just give equality, क्योंकि article 17 में लिखा हुआ है कि untouchability is prohibited. Article 15 clause 1 says that there should not be any discrimination on the basis of religion, caste, gender, place of But we also have Article 15 Clause 4, which says that there should be a special provision for members from scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and the socially and educationally backward classes. It means positive discrimination. And this is the reason the Indian Constitution is revolutionary. यदि ये document नहीं होता, then probably things would have continued just like that. And therefore the former Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, he gives a very beautiful statement about Indian Constitution when he defends it. He says that the beauty of the Constitution is that it works for those who don't believe in it. It also works for those who do not believe in the Constitution. मैंने crime किया, I committed a murder, I have violated the Constitution, because under Constitution I am not permitted to take somebody's life, I am not permitted to do violence. So I have committed a crime, I have violated the Constitution. But when I go in the court, and when an advocate or lawyer, he is trying to defend me, he is trying to defend me on the basis of Constitution. So Constitution comes to the rescue of even those who do not believe in the Constitution. There are people who कहते हैं कि ये Constitution ठीक नहीं है, or this is the Congress Constitution. But when they are put in jail, let us say मैंने एक protest organize किया, where I say कि this Constitution is not good, this is Congress Constitution, we need to change it. And when I am put in jail, I will go to the court and say that under Article 21, my right to life and liberty, personal liberty is protected. तो जब आप Constitution में believe ही नहीं कर रहे थे, then why you are invoking this Constitution to defend? This is the beauty of Constitution, that even if you criticize it, Constitution will come to defend you. And therefore, this is the most important document in India. The very reason why Indian democracy is surviving is because of this book, Constitution. यदि आप अपने आसपास देखेंगे ना, look at the political geography of India. South Asia में हम, we have neighborhood में हम चलेंगे तो we have Afghanistan. You are looking at the situation in Afghanistan. In Pakistan, democracy has its own troubles. China को हम democracy कह नहीं सकते. Bangladesh, you are seeing that what is happening for last 1 year. Myanmar has its own problem. Okay. Then Sri Lanka throughout, I think last 20 years. पिछले 10 सालों से थोड़ा peaceful है, but before that it has been in trouble. So you just look around the neighborhood of India. You'll find that India remains as an island of democracy. And this is coming from the Constitution itself. The only weakest point of the Indian democracy was in 1975, when from 25th of June till March of 1977, emergency was imposed. That was the weakest point of Indian democracy. लेकिन आप बाकी थर्ड वर्ल्ड कंट्री से कंपेयर करेंगे तो आप पाएंगे कि ड्यूरिंग दिस फेज द वर्ल्ड वाज फेसिंग द सेकेंड वेव ऑफ reverse democracy. Countries were slipping into dictatorship. India managed to save itself just going as low as emergence. Uske beyond nahi. Why it happened? Because of the Constitution. Because Constitution provides that there has to be elections. And when in 1977 elections are happening, then Congress party got just 154 seats. That was the lowest count of seats in the history of India. People punished Congress party for this misadventure. यदि संविधान नहीं होता तो शायद ये इलेक्शन नहीं होता. So the Indian democracy is standing on this solid, very strong platform called Indian Constitution. लिखेंगे, introduction लिखेंगे, right? Right. एक will write a quote from former Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud. Right. Constitution matters because it works because it works even for those who do not believe in it, ठीक है. Former CGI DY Chandrachud. Write a paragraph. The Constitution is the supreme law of the country, that defines, इसको पॉइंट्स में लिखेंगे, objectives of the government, second, nature of the state, third, source of power of the state, source and scope लिख दीजिए, source and scope of power of the state, fourth, structure of the government, ठीक है. नाउ ऑब्जेक्टिव है डिस्कस कि यदि हम संविधान देखते हैं तो justice, social, economic and political. Okay, political justice means right to vote, fundamental rights. Social justice means that social identity should not be a reason to discriminate, whether it is gender, caste, religion, ethnicity, language, but on the basis of social identity you should not be discriminated. And then economic justice means that every Indian has equal claim on the resources of the country. It means that one should not have excess property and ऐसा भी नहीं हो कि किसी के पास कुछ ना हो. And that's why we thought about land reforms. There are particular articles in the Indian Constitution, Article 39B and C, which says that the property ownership should not be controlled by few. It should be uniformly distributed. ठीक है. And every Indian having equal claim on the resources of the country means that even if the Prime Minister is traveling for his private purpose, he will have to pay for it. So in the official capacity, anybody will get whatever comfort and whatever facilities they are getting. But for the private purpose, everybody will have to pay that kind. Let us say if I am the minister and if I am traveling for the private purpose from here to Mumbai, then I will have to pay for it. The government is not going to pay. Why? Because everybody has equal claim on the resources of this country. Then nature of the state. जब आप preamble पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें क्या लिखा हुआ है? India is a democratic country. Nature बता रहे. भले आप संविधान नहीं देखे, आगे नहीं पढ़े, बट इतना तो पता चल जाएगा कि इंडिया इज नॉट अ डिक्टेटरशिप, इट इज नॉट अ मोनार्की, डेमोक्रेसी. अब आगे आप पढ़ेंगे तो पता चलेगा कि कैसी डेमोक्रेसी, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इलेक्शंस वी हैव, बट इतना तो कंफर्म है कि इंडिया इज अ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री. देन इंडिया इज अ रिपब्लिक, दैट मीन्स द हेड ऑफ द स्टेट इज इलेक्टेड. Directly elected हो, indirectly elected हो, that is not important, but it is A republic because head of the state is elected. ये monarchy नहीं है. The way Britain is monarchy. वहाँ पे king होता है. But in India we don't have the concept of king. We here it is the indirectly elected person who becomes the head of the state. And in this time when we are again presently, it is the probably the most significant time in the history of India's republic. And here you see the power of the constitution. That who is the first citizen of India? A woman, a tribal woman. See the intersectionality. Intersectionality एक concept है feminism का. Kimberly Crenshaw ने दिया था, which means that when two identities overlap, exploitation increases. Women, lower caste, lower class, यदि एक साथ आ जाते हैं तो exploitation increases. But see in India, which is otherwise a country of South Asia, developing country, a third world country, but till now US has not been able to elect even a single woman president, right? We have seen women presidents also second, and we have seen women prime ministers also, and a Dalit, a woman president. It would not have been possible without this constitution. Without this constitution, somebody from that section would not have reached that level. Republic. Then India is a secular country. The preamble says India is a secular country. So when you read this word secular, at least आपको इतना पता चलेगा कि one religion will not be the state religion. One religion shall not be prioritized over. Then India is a socialist state. Preamble says that India is a socialist state. It means that there will always be some kind of welfare activities being done by the state. तो आपको कुछ idea लगे, कुछ तो reservation system जैसा होगा, PDS system जैसा होगा. And then और कौन सा बच रहा है? Democratic Republic, secular, socialist, sovereign country. Sovereign country. So basically sovereignty has the overlap with the source of power. That India is having popular sovereignty. Preamble, the constitution starts from which phrase? We the people of India. We the people of India. So the constitution, आप यदि hierarchy देखेंगे, आपने बात की कि constitution में rights मिलते हैं. If I ask you that who gives us rights? Is it the government? No. Government does not give us the right. Government is there to protect our right. Government कहाँ से right दे सकती है? Government को हमने ये power ही नहीं दिया. The right has been given to us by the constitution, and constitution has been given to us by ourselves. We the people of India, और preamble end होता है, give to ourselves on this date this constitution. So the source of constitution and the source of right, the source of authority is the people of India. We the people of India. So basically it is, when we say sovereignty, it means popular sovereignty. Then the third objective, source and the scope of power. Source to clear हो गया. It is the Indians who are giving this power. After every 5 years we have elections, and Indians have the power to decide that who will have the power. If they want, they can change the government. They can change the government. Another example of the success of Indian Constitution is 1964, this year. 1964 is significant because it was this year when Nehru departed. Nehru died. यदि आप इतिहास उठा के पढ़ेंगे ना डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज का, तो 90% में आप पाएंगे कि जैसे ही फर्स्ट लीडर डिपार्ट्स, द कंट्री ब्रेक्स डाउन इनटू अनार्की. क्योंकि जब तक देयर इज वन अथॉरिटेटिव लीडर, थिंग्स आर इन ऑर्डर, बट द मोमेंट दैट वैक्यूम इज गेटिंग क्रिएटेड, देयर इज कंप्लीट अनार्की. Now you see that in 1964 we are making a transition from Nehru to Lal Bahadur Shastri. Now Lal Bahadur Shastri, definitely very honest person, but not as hegemonic as Nehru. Nehru का different level था. Lal Bahadur Shastri was not as hegemonic. Yet a very peaceful transition of power happened. Why? Because at the base of this transition was constitution. सब कुछ constitution में लिखा था, and people followed it. And there's another thing, a word which will come, that is called as constitutionalism. Because of constitutionalism, this transition in power happened. अनदर एग्जांपल ऑफ द सक्सेस इज 1977 जो मैंने बताया कि इंदिरा गांधी आफ्टर दैट मिस एडवेंचर शी वेरी पीसफुली ट्रांसफर द पावर. जनरली आप एक बार इतने बड़ा स्टेप ले लेते हैं. इफ यू सी द इलेक्शंस 1971 इलेक्शंस जो हुए, who won 1971 election? Any idea? Which party? Congress party won. It was the Indian National Congress which won under the leadership of Indira Gandhi. Mrs. Gandhi, the Congress party won. Now it was a thumping majority of 351 plus. Presently 2019 mein BJP became very happy when they got 303. Very happy. Imagine 351. And after that when Indira Gandhi, her popularity was at such a level and it increased further when she is winning the 1971 war. Now a prime minister coming with 350 plus seats, winning a war against Pakistan, dividing the country, you can imagine the kind of popularity. यदि सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक्स पे इतनी पॉपुलैरिटी बढ़ जा रही है तो वो तो फिर देश को, पाकिस्तान को दो पार्ट में ही डिवाइड कर दिया. एंड देयरफॉर द emergency happened. In fact, there's an interview, I think Catherine Frank or there's some foreign journalist. She asked question from Mrs. Gandhi that don't you think that you have imposed Article 352 emergency, people will resist? Mrs. Gandhi said that when I put the emergency, not even dogs bark. You can call it arrogance, confidence, whatever. But the kind of power Prime Minister was holding. And in 1977, the power is getting transferred. And it was a very smooth transfer of power. In rest of the countries, you'll find that the leader will not go that easily. He will do everything possible of creating disturbances. This happened because of the constitution. So the source and the scope of power. Now, why I made you write this word scope? Because this will determine till what extent government can go. Example, मान के चलिए 2029 में इलेक्शंस होंगे, आपने वोट दिया बीजेपी इज गेटिंग 400 प्लस, ठीक है, इवन 500 and rest 45 seats are going to Congress. Let us imagine this situation. Does that mean that BJP can do anything it wants? 500 और 500 भी क्या, मैं कह रहा हूं 545 सीट्स है, एक पार्टी को 545 आ गए, ऑपोजिशन है ही नहीं. Does it mean that government तो इलेक्शन से आ नहीं रही है, बट फ्रॉम वेयर आर दे गेटिंग पावर कि पार्लियामेंट कुछ करे और ये बोल दे इट इज नल एंड वॉइड? फ्रॉम वेयर आर दे गेटिंग द पावर? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. एंड देयरफॉर आई से द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज द स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट डॉक्यूमेंट एंड द वेरी बेस ऑन विच द कंट्री. आपने बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर का नाम लिया. It is said that the doctrine of basic structure has stopped this country from being driven into dictatorship. Otherwise, the kind of majorities that parties were getting, Congress got 414 seats in 1984 election. 414, you can imagine. Yet it does not mean that it can change anything, any major part of the constitution, because in 1973, in a very famous case called Keshwanand Bharati case, the doctrine of basic structure was evolved. अब डॉक्ट्रिन तो बहुत पावरफुल है, बट आप सोचिए कि कैसे, कहां से ये डॉक्ट्रिन आया? क्या हमारे संविधान में ये शब्द लिखा हुआ है बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर? Is this word basic structure written in the Indian Constitution? It is not written. Basic structure word is not even written in the Indian Constitution. Yet it is the most powerful tool with the judiciary. अभी न्यूज आप पढ़ रहे होंगे तो NJAC का न्यूज में काफी चल रहा है, राइट? It was in 2015. Government passed the 99th Amendment. पास किया, both houses passed, states also supported, and judiciary sat on one fine day और उन्होंने कहा it is null and void because it is violating the basic structure of the Indian Constitution. From where this power is coming? This power is coming from Indian Constitution और उसमें भी एक शेड्यूल 3 है. शेड्यूल 3 में क्या है लिखा हुआ है, कुछ आपको आइडिया है? शेड्यूल 3 में क्या लिखा हुआ है? सॉरी नहीं, फंडामेंटल राइट्स नहीं, क्या लिखा हुआ? ओथ ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स, CAG, जजेस, ओथ लिखा हुआ है. Now in schedule 3 the oath of the judges is to protect the constitution, and therefore judges said that this change is violating the basic structure and we are bound by the constitution to protect the constitution. Even parliament को, parliamentarians जो भी होते हैं, MPs को ये oath नहीं दिलाया जाता है कि they have to protect the constitution, they have to follow the constitution, but judges take the oath of protecting and upholding the constitution. See the beauty of the constitution, that the power to amend the constitution has been given to, constitution में कोई बदलाव करना रहेगा तो कौन करता है? पार्लियामेंट, यानी लेजिस्लेचर कर रही है. But judiciary has been given the power, or judiciary has derived the power to declare that whether this amendment is correct or not. यदि ऐसा होता कि लेजिस्लेचर के पास ही दोनों पावर होता और जुडिशरी के पास ही दोनों पावर होता, then again it would have disbalanced Indian democracy. So it's very thought process. मतलब जो 2 साल समय लिए, जो more than 2 years it took, okay, it was not that ऐसे ही कुछ भी हो रहा. Proper deliberations were happening, and we will see that one reason why Indian Constitution has now survived for 70 plus years is because we took a lot of time in drafting and discussing this constitution. I will share with you a data. Worldwide, right from French Revolution till 2005, study has been done, and out of that study the conclusion is that one constitution survives for an average year of 17 years. उससे ज्यादा नहीं. फ्रांस का भी 5th constitution, पाकिस्तान की तो बात ही छोड़ दी. But India has maintained that one constitution even for 70 plus years. Why? Because that was a proper third thing. And the last one is the structure of the government. Indian government is a federal government. Okay, Article 1 says that India is the union of states. We have Schedule 7. Schedule 7 idea है? What is Schedule 7? Schedule 7 में क्या लिखा हुआ है? Any idea? Division of power. So in Schedule 7 there are 3 lists given: union list, state list, concurrent list. Union lists are having subjects over which Parliament has the power to make law. State list having subjects over which state is having the power to make law. Concurrent list, both can make laws, but whose laws will be priority? Union government. ठीक है. So जब ये डिवीजन ऑफ पावर हम देखते हैं तो इतना तो पता चल जाता है कि स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट में एटलीस्ट 2 लेयर्स होंगे. देयर विल बी एटलीस्ट 2 लेयर्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. ऐसा नहीं है कि दिल्ली से ही बैठ के सब कुछ हो. एटलीस्ट देयर विल बी 2 लेयर्स, दैट इज द यूनियन एंड द स्टेट. Similarly, when we see the 73rd and 74th amendment, any idea क्या है 73rd? पंचायत एंड म्युनिसिपैलिटीज. तो इतना हमें पता चलता है कि नो, देयर आर 3 tiers of the government: Delhi, state capital, and whatever will be the panchayat and the municipalities. So it gives you the structure of the government. Structure of the government. So these 4 points you understood. Now write a paragraph. Right. नहीं अभी आएगा वो, अभी बस वी आर टचिंग अराउंड, क्योंकि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में क्या क्या है वी आर लुकिंग टू. नाउ राइट अ पैराग्राफ. राइट. We require constitution. We require constitution because it helps in coordination, comma, provides for dispute redressal, comma, defines the limitations on government, and most importantly provides a fundamental political identity to the people. Therefore, the Constitution is an instrument in the hands of the people of India to restrain the government, Give us a reading. What is constitutionalism? What is constitutionalism? Okay. What is constitutionalism? See, again, since it is ending with ism, so it is a philosophy. It is a thought process which says that constitution is the supreme and there has to be rule of law, which means there will be limited government. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म का सीधा सा मतलब है कि एक एक शब्द जो संविधान में लिखा हुआ है, it is sacrosanct, it is sacred, and therefore each word has its meaning. You cannot ignore that. In many famous cases, even simple words like or, and, includes has been debated, and judges and advocates, they have spent days in trying to interpret that. Just to give you an example, आर्टिकल 13 आप पढ़ेंगे ना, सो आर्टिकल 13 में लिखा हुआ है कि लॉ इंक्लूड्स दिस 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 दिस, बहुत सारी। आर्टिकल 13 इंक्लूड आर्टिकल 13 सेज दैट लॉ इंक्लूड्स बाय लॉज, नोटिफिकेशन, ये बहुत सारी चीज इसमें लिखी हुई। नाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर लॉ केम आर्टिकल केम अंडर क्वेश्चन जब ये डिसाइड किया जा रहा था कि कैन अमेंडमेंट्स, क्या हम अमेंडमेंट का यूज करके फंडामेंटल राइट्स को लिमिट कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते। एक तो फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं कि विच आर लिमिटेशन ऑन द गवर्नमेंट, बट द पार्लियामेंट हैज द पावर टू अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। यदि कल को पार्लियामेंट ने एक अमेंडमेंट किया और राइट्स को ही हटा दिया, पार्लियामेंट के पास पावर है अंडर आर्टिकल 368 टू अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। पार्लियामेंट ने क्या किया कि लेट अस अज्यूम दैट दिस गवर्नमेंट हैविंग सफिशिएंट नंबर्स, ठीक है, उन्होंने एक अमेंडमेंट, दे आर गेटिंग एन अमेंडमेंट एंड दे आर रिमूविंग पार्ट 3 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, दैट इज फंडामेंटल राइट, दैट इज वेरी मच इन देयर पावर। सो द क्वेश्चन केम दैट when article 13 is talking about law, does it include amendments or not? Now, this particular law came under question. जब ये डिसाइड किया जा रहा था कि कैन अमेंडमेंट्स, क्या हम अमेंडमेंट का यूज करके फंडामेंटल राइट्स को लिमिट कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते। एक तो फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं कि विच आर लिमिटेशन ऑन द गवर्नमेंट, बट द पार्लियामेंट ने एक अमेंडमेंट किया और राइट्स को ही हटा दिया, पार्लियामेंट के पास पावर है अंडर आर्टिकल 368 टू अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, दैट इज फंडामेंटल राइट, दैट इज वेरी मच इन देयर पावर। सो द क्वेश्चन केम that So the whole discussion was on this word includes, क्योंकि कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि दिस लिस्ट इज नॉट एग्जॉस्टिव, क्योंकि एग्जॉस्टिव होता तो लिखा होता लॉ इज, लॉ इज, दिस लिस्ट इज इंक्लूसिव, यानी इसमें और भी चीज इंक्लूड हो सकती। सो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज दैट ईच वर्ड written in the constitution is of significance. Now the question is, constitutionalism means limits on the government. So if constitutionalism means limits on the government, it can happen through two ways. Limit on the government can happen through two ways. One is by telling government what is not to be done, what is not to be done. Second is by telling government what is to be done, isn't it? यदि आप किसी की अथॉरिटी को लिमिट करना चाह रहे हैं तो यही दो तरीका हो सकता है कि यू टेल द स्टेट कि आप ये नहीं कर सकते, या फिर टू टेल टू द स्टेट कि आपको ये करना है. In that way you are limiting the scope of the power of that state. In Indian Constitution, part 3 talks about fundamental rights. Part 3, that is fundamental rights, are telling the government what they cannot do, restrictions. And part 4 क्या है? DPSPs, directive principles, are telling to the government what is to be done. This is called as negative constitutionalism because it is stopping the government. This is called as positive constitutionalism because it is telling government what is to be done. But in both the cases, government के power क्या हो रहे हैं? Restrict हो रहे हैं. क्योंकि आप पार्ट 3 पढ़ेंगे, नेक्स्ट चैप्टर इज फंडामेंटल राइट्स, आप पार्ट 3 पढ़ेंगे, उसमें लिखा हुआ है आर्टिकल 13 में दैट एनी लॉ विच इज गोइंग अगेंस्ट फंडामेंटल राइट्स शैल बी डिक्लेयर्ड नल एंड वॉइड. सरकार चाहे कितनी भी मेजॉरिटी में क्यों ना हो, कोई भी ऐसा कानून नहीं बना सकती जो कि फंडामेंटल राइट्स के खिलाफ जाए. सो इट इज स्टॉपिंग द गवर्नमेंट. एंड दिस पार्ट 4, these are different directives given कि सरकार को क्या क्या करना है, स्टेट को क्या क्या करना है. So the simplest definition is that constitutionalism is a philosophy which talks about the limitations on the power of government. It can be a negative limitation, it can be a positive. तो इसको लिखेंगे, राइट? मैं लिखवा रहा हूँ, राइट? Constitutionalism is a philosophy which says that the written document that is constitution shall be followed and there shall be rule of law. Therefore constitutionalism is a restriction on the arbitrary power of the state, of the state. So basically it is restricting the government in the inter election period. 2024 में election हुए, आपने mandate दे दिया. Now the next election will happen in 2029. So we cannot wait if the government is doing something wrong. You cannot wait कि जब 2029 में elections होगा then we'll punish the government. No. So in the inter-election years, it is constitutionalism which will help to control the government. इसमें next paragraph लिखेंगे. Constitutionalism can be negative or positive, or positive. इसमें first point लिखेंगे, right? First point. Negative constitutionalism talks about the restriction on the government it follows the ideology of liberalism you have idea about liberalism क्या है liberalism freedom liberalism ठीक है free फ्रॉम restraints ठीक है तो लिबरलिज्म बेसिकली तो एक लिबरल स्ट्रक्चर में स्टेट कैसा होता है इज इट अ पावरफुल स्टेट और लिमिटेड स्टेट पावरफुल आप लिमिटेड स्टेट होगा ना क्योंकि स्टेट पावरफुल होगा तो इंडिविजुअल फ्री नहीं रह पाए सो there's a one word which is used to define the liberal state that is the minimal state या फिर नाइट वॉचमैन स्टेट बोलते हैं ठीक है जैसा कि हमने यूरोप में देखा ड्यूरिंग द इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन दैट द स्टेट इज हैविंग मिनिमम पावर सो हियर आल्सो वी आर टेलिंग द स्टेट don't do this that's why I made you write it follows the philosophy of liberalism ब्रैकेट में लिख दीजिए फंडामेंटल राइट्स इन इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन fundamental rights in Indian constitution. So if you go into the philosophy of it, then the initial liberal school represented by thinkers like Adam Smith, जिनकी बहुत ही सबसे famous book है Wealth of Nation, right? Wherein he said that state should not interfere. They believe that when state interfere, then inefficiency आ जाती है. So let the demand and supply drive this economy. State should not interfere. क्योंकि जब भी state आएगा, example reservation. So when state is coming and ensuring reservation, basically what is happening? आप social justice एक side आप ensure कर रहे हैं through reservation, but definitely you are taking those people, you are employing those people जो कि जो normal cutoff है उसे कम level पे select हुआ. So efficiency must be getting affected. So whenever in the private sector you'll find that there's only one criteria for employing people, that is whosoever is scoring more efficient they will be employed, and that's why Adam Smith said that when state interferes inefficiency increases. So minimal state की बात कर. Second point, right? Positive constitutionalism. Right. It talks about the responsibilities of the state. Responsibilities of the state. In bracket, right? Welfare state. इसी में लिखेंगे इट कम्स क्लोज टू द सोशलिस्ट फिलॉसफी. सोशलिस्ट फिलॉसफी क्योंकि वहां पे स्टेट जो होता है वेलफेयर स्टेट हो. अब एक पैराग्राफ एक लाइन लिख देंगे यहाँ पे. राइट. डेमोक्रेसी एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन does not always result into constitutionalism. ठीक है. तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म बेसिकली इज दैट फिलॉसफी जहां पे हमने संविधान को सुप्रीम मान लिया है और हम उस चीज को फॉलो कर रहे हैं. द सिटीजंस एज वेल एज द स्टेट दे आर फॉलोइंग इट. ठीक है. रिस्पेक्ट फॉर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. somehow you'll find that democracy is not a guarantee to constitutionalism. डेमोक्रेसी है इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि संविधानवाद या फिर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म हमेशा होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आप इमरजेंसी टाइम का ही देख लीजिए. इंदिरा गांधी गवर्नमेंट वाज डेमोक्रेटिकली इलेक्टेड. फ्री एंड फेयर इलेक्शन में 351 सीट्स आए थे. बट व्हाट हैपेंड ड्यूरिंग द इमरजेंसी इट वाज नॉट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल क्योंकि वो लिमिटेड गवर्नमेंट तो किसी एंगल से नहीं था. अगेन the presence of constitution also does not guarantee constitutionalism, because what Indira Gandhi did was very much under the provision of the constitution. आर्टिकल 352 का यूज करके ही तो किया था. ऐसा थोड़ी कि कल सुबह उठे और इंडियन आर्मी मिलिट्री हर जगह थी. नहीं, इट वाज वेरी मच थ्रू द प्रोविजन ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. आर्टिकल 352 का यूज करके हुआ. सो the imposition of emergency was not unconstitutional. But what happened during the period जब opposition leaders को arrest किया जाने लगा, आर्टिस्ट जो थे, जो भी गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ जाता था उसको अरेस्ट कर लेते, that was not constitutional. For that matter, take example of Hitler in Germany. Whatever he did, it was under the Weimar constitution of Germany. बिल्कुल constitution था. And Hitler was supported by people. In that way he was democratic also. People wanted him as the leader. But what he did and the kind of government he made, it was not a limited government and therefore it was not constitutional. Now the reverse examples are also true. कि constitutionalism होने के लिए ऐसा भी है कि democracy नहीं होगी but constitutionalism होगा. Take for example the time of Ashoka. It was monarchy, but Ashoka followed the law of Dham, which was written on the pillars. Rock edicts पे लिखे रहते थे. The king would also follow and the people would also follow. वहां पे तो monarchy नहीं थी, संविधान था, संविधान धम्म था, and the king was following it. Also take for example जो ancient Indian scriptures में बताए गए in Ramayana and Mahabharata. It was not democracy. Ram was not a democratic leader. He was monarchy. He was king. He was son of a king. But he followed. Before taking action, he would ask कि शास्त्र क्या कहते हैं. तो शास्त्र were the constitution. And if शास्त्र ये कहते हैं कि राजा को पश्चाताप करना पड़ेगा, then the king was following it. So without democracy and without a written constitution as such in the legal means, constitutionalism, that means the respect for law was there and the king was not above the law. King को भी permission नहीं था कि law के beyond जा सके, isn't it? So somehow democracy does not guarantees constitutionalism. Constitution does not guarantees constitutionalism. At the same time, constitutionalism can be established even without democracy or even without a written constitution. And therefore, Sanjeev Khanna is the present Chief Justice of India. I think his grandfather, some HR Khanna, who was the chief, he could not become the chief justice, but he's considered as one of the most judge of integrity who stood against Indira Gandhi. Probably only one judge who stood against Indira Gandhi in that manner was Justice HR Khanna. एक बहुत ही फेमस केस है, हम पढ़ेंगे, एडीएम जबलपुर केस 1976. There were 5 judges. 4 of the judges said that what government is doing is right. Only one judge stood against the Indira Gandhi government, saying this is not right. Okay, and he had to pay price for that. We will see that. But Justice HR Khanna said that constitution you can adopt, आप draft कर सकते हैं. Constitutionalism has to be cultivated. ये culture है. It is a culture. Democracy तो एक step में आ जाती है कि आपने डिक्लेयर कर दिया इंडिया इज अ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री. फ्रॉम 26 जनवरी 1950 इंडिया वुड बी डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री. बट डेमोक्रेसी एज अ कल्चर हैज टू बी कल्टिवेटेड. सिमिलरली कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म एज अ कल्चर हैज टू बी कल्टिवेटेड, अदरवाइज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वुड बी अ पीस ऑफ पेपर. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ लिखेंगे. राइट, नाउ राइट, गिव अ हेडिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली. Constituent Assembly. In fact, since we were talking about constitutionalism, here there's a very famous debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar on the meaning of constitutionalism. आपको इतना पता होगा कि Gandhi and Ambedkar, there are very famous debates about their perception on Varna system, on Hinduism, on the meaning of Swaraj. बहुत सारे debates हैं. एक debate गांधी और अंबेडकर के बीच में है constitutionalism को लेके. Now Ambedkar being a legal rationalist, he was a believer. Ambedkar believed in state. Ambedkar believed in parliament and law. Gandhi was an anarchist. Gandhi did not believe in the authority of the state. Gandhi is called as moral anarchist. Gandhi believed that your own soul will always guide you to do right thing. There should not be any external mechanism. For example, there's somebody, a weak person standing there. तो दो ऑप्शन हो सकते हैं कि आपको गुस्सा आ रहा है उस पर, बट देन आल्सो यू नॉट गोइंग टू हिट हिम बिकॉज ऑफ 2 रीजंस. वन, एक पुलिसमैन वहां पे खड़ा है और आपको पता है कि द मोमेंट यू हिट दैट गाय, द पुलिसमैन विल टेक यू टू जेल. द सेकेंड इज योर soul, your conscience will say that it is not right to hit that person. Ambedkar says first option, there has to be a law, authority, state, then only people will do the right thing. Gandhi says it is not required. Your own conscience should guide you to do the right. Another example जो कि जब आप तैयारी स्टार्ट करेंगे तो एथिक्स पेपर में पढ़ाया जाएगा, difference between integrity and honesty. Honesty is when you do the right thing when somebody is watching. Integrity is when you do the right thing when somebody is not watching. As a bureaucrat, you want to earn money. But if you are not taking corrupt money, if not taking involving in corruption because law is there, तो फिर आप honest है. But integrity question में है आप. But if you are not taking money because you don't want to, आपकी अंतरात्मा उसका not giving permission, then you are a person of integrity. So Gandhi believed that there is no requirement of a state or a law, and any law should be followed only when it can be justified by your conscience. कोई भी कानून जब तक आपको लगता है कि सही है तभी आप उसको फॉलो करें. Ambedkar was surprised by such statements of Gandhi. Not only surprised, he was frustrated, irritated by such statements of Gandhi. Because Ambedkar said कि यदि कोई कानून, मान लीजिए पार्लियामेंट ने एक लॉ बनाया, everybody is following, मुझे लगा कि it is not as per my conscience, I will not follow it. गांधी का क्या कहना होता था? नो, डोंट कोऑपरेट, नॉन कोऑपरेशन, सिविल डिसोबीडियंस. Ambedkar said, in fact, this is on the record, when he is saying in one of his concluding speeches in the Constituent Assembly, he says that till now we followed the Gandhian method. Why? Because the government was foreign government. The laws were made by the British government. So we could shrug off our responsibility. कुछ भी आया हम उसमें complain कर सकते थे. We will not follow this law. But from today onwards, we are losing this comfort. Now the constitution is ours, parliament is ours, representatives have been elected by us. We cannot say that this law we will not follow. If you find a flaw in this law, then in the next election आप गवर्नमेंट बदल दीजिए. बट ये ऑप्शन नहीं रहना चाहिए कि लॉ नहीं पसंद आया तो आप धरने पे बैठ जाएं, फास्ट पे जैसे कि गांधी करते थे बैठ जाए. दिस इज नॉट. एंड ही वेरी कैटेगरिकली सेज, अंबेडकर, दैट दिस इज द ग्रामर ऑफ anarchy. It will result into a situation wherein there will be complete anarchy in the country. Grammar of Anarchy, 25th November 1949. You see, he says, we must hold fast to constitutional methods of achieving our social and economic objective. It means that we must abandon the method of civil disobedience, non-cooperation and satyagraha. He is not mincing his word. अंबेडकर के बारे में खास बात यह है कि अंबेडकर जो चीज को बोलते हैं डायरेक्टली सेज दैट इट मे अपीयर गुड, इट मे अपीयर बैड. अंबेडकर हैज मेड controversial statements. He says that put dynamite on Vedas and Manusmriti, because he believed that, and he is very outrightly saying that he is favoring conversion. कि आप हिंदुइज्म छोड़ दीजिए, convert to other religion, because Hinduism is beyond any repair. इतना कास्ट सिस्टम अंदर चला गया है कि उसको रिपेयर किया ही नहीं जा सकता. So Ambedkar, whatever he says, he is very direct. Okay, so here also he is saying that it means that we must abandon the method of civil disobedience, non-cooperation and satyagraha, which he says these methods are nothing but the grammar of anarchy. और आज नहीं तो कल हम इस चीज को छोड़ना पड़ेगा. So the constitutionalism of Ambedkar is follow the law. If you don't like the law, change the government. Don't sit on the roads. Gandhi says follow the law only when your conscience can justify it. Otherwise, don't cooperate. Civil disobedience. Again, two different leaders talking about constitutionalism in different ways. Constituent Assembly. Right. Right. After India's independence, the Constitution of India was adopted on 26th November 1949. It was the result of an inclusive deliberation for 2 years, 11 months, how many days? 18 days. 18 days. The Constituent Assembly was an indirectly elected assembly with provincial legislatures electing their members and princely states nominating their representatives. The structure was as per the cabinet mission plan of 1946. The first sitting happened on 9th December 1946. The Constitution came into force on 26th January 1950. 3 डेज आपको याद रखना है फैक्ट्स में. एक तो 9 दिसंबर 1946 फर्स्ट सिटिंग, then 26 November 1949 when we adopted the constitution, and 26 January 1950 when the constitution came into force, the Republic Day. Next paragraph, right? The question is often raised on the composition of the Constituent Assembly. Now, again 1947 when India is getting independence, okay, and when the leaders decided that we will make India a democratic country, it was seen by scholars from Western countries as a kind of misadventure. They laughed on the leadership of India because they believed that a country like India, which has never seen democracy, देखो कुछ एग्जांपल्स हमें देखने को मिलते हैं, हम देते हैं वैशाली का एग्जांपल देते हैं, बट दोज वर स्मॉल आइलैंड्स कहीं कहीं, या फिर बुद्धिस्ट ट्रेडिशन का देते हैं, बट इट वाज फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम दैट इंडिया वाज एक्सपीरियंसिंग डेमोक्रेसी एट दैट लेवल. ब्रिटिशर्स भी जिस लेवल की डेमोक्रेसी लेके आए थे, ओनली 15% हैड द राइट टू वोट, इवन लेस देन दैट. रेस्ट 85% से ज्यादा लोगों को राइट टू वोट नहीं था. So when Indian leadership decided that India will be a democratic country, the Western scholars, they laughed at us. They said that India will be disintegrated into pieces. क्योंकि ना केवल geographical size बड़ी थी इंडिया की, plus the diversity. In fact, if you see statement from Winston Churchill, he says that India is no more a country than equator. कि जैसे इक्वेटर एक imaginary line है, और जैसे आप इक्वेटर के चारों तरफ जाएंगे आपको बहुत डाइवर्सिटी देखने को मिलेगी. सिमिलरली इंडिया इज एन इमेजिनरी कॉन्सेप्ट. वेयर इज इंडिया? ही वुड आस्क वेयर इज इंडिया? यदि आप इंडिया की बात करेंगे तो he would say that India is not a nation, it is just a geographical expression, and this geographical unity has been brought by the Britishers. The moment British will leave, the country will disintegrate. So nobody was ready to believe that India would survive. In fact, you'll be surprised that even some of the leaders, including Patel, said that this constitution is just for the initial 10 years. वो भी नहीं सोच सकते थे कि ये संविधान बहुत दिन चलेगा, क्योंकि चीजें फ्लक्स में है. The country is already divided into two, both sides, East Pakistan, West Pakistan, and there's already demand for creation of so many new countries, princely states. So it was like a joke that India is going to experiment with democracy. But Indian leaders decided, and the strength was from the constitution. One of the very famous scholars of that point, Ivor Jennings, शायद आपने पढ़ा होगा इनका नाम, Ivor Jennings. He was Vice Chancellor of Cambridge University, and he is often referred to as the modern Aristotle, expert on constitution. Okay, when India adopted the constitution, when the constitution came into force, he came to Madras University for giving a 3-day lecture on Indian constitution, and his conclusion towards the last was that Indian constitution is too lengthy, too rigid, too complex. Okay. And all this has been documented by one of the Constituent Assembly member who was there, V.R. Krishnaswamy Iyer, who was there to attend this lecture. क्योंकि विश्व का सबसे बड़ा constitutionalist है, so everybody, Ivor Jennings. His conclusion was that there are 3 fundamental flaws in the Indian constitution. First, बहुत rigid है. Now, why he is saying it's too rigid? एक रीजन हो सकता है कि ही इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द ब्रिटिश ट्रेडिशन, और ब्रिटेन में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अमेंड करना इज एज सिंपल एज अमेंडिंग अ लॉ. यूएस ट्रेडिशन में तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट. सो इज फाइंडिंग इट टू रिजिड, कि जो आर्टिकल 368 में दिया हुआ है कि रिक्वायर 2/3 स्पेशल मेजॉरिटी, सेज दैट इज टू रिजिड, एंड दैट आल्सो फॉर अ कंट्री लाइक इंडिया व्हिच इज चेंजिंग, हर मोमेंट में चेंज हो रहा है, एंड आपने ऐसा रिजिड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया, इट इज फ्रेजाइल, टूट जाएगा. टू लेंथी, लॉन्गेस्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, एंड टू कॉम्प्लेक्स. व्हाई कॉम्प्लेक्स? हमने बहुत सारे चेंजेस किए, बहुत सारे ऐसे फीचर्स थे. कॉम्प्लेक्स क्यों? वी एक्सपेरिमेंटेड विथ अ न्यू यूनिक कॉम्बिनेशन. जनरली आप देखेंगे कि फेडरलिज्म जो है ना, इट गोज वेल विथ द प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम. जैसे यूएस है, US is a presidential system, it's a federalism, and unitary model goes well with the parliamentary model, जैसा कि यूके में, क्योंकि तब में तो यही 2 मॉडल्स अवेलेबल थे ना हमारे लिए, एक तो US मॉडल एंड द यूके मॉडल. What we did in India, that we adopted federalism and we adopted parliamentary system, हमने इसको कंबाइन कर दिया. So what is happening is कि 2 set successful models के features आपने उठा के एक synthesis बना दिया. It was, बाकी जगह भी ट्राई किए गए, कनाडा, ऑस्ट्रेलिया ट्राई, बट इंडिया व्हेन वी आर ट्राइंग, तो इस पे क्वेश्चन उठाया कि दिस मे नॉट वर्क. सेकेंड थिंग, ही हाईलाइटेड दैट फंडामेंटल राइट्स है हमारे पास. वी हैव गिवन DPSPs. At that point of time, fundamental rights में हमारे पास थे right to property also under Article 31, and there was another Article 19(1)(f), right to property. That means your property cannot be taken away from you. But at the same time, DPSP में Article 39(b) और C थे, which said that there should be uniform distribution of property, wealth. Basically land reforms. लैंड रिफॉर्म में क्या होता है, आप उनसे लैंड ले लेते हैं जिनके पास एक्सेस में है, उनको देने के लिए जिनके पास कम है. नाउ यू टेल मी वन थिंग, यदि आप किसी से प्रॉपर्टी रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है, यू विल हैव टू टेक प्रॉपर्टी फ्रॉम समबडी, बट राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी वाज गिवन द स्टेटस ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट, और इससे प्रॉब्लम आए भी, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ. So similar kind of conflicts complex he highlighted in the Indian Constitution, and his conclusion was that it is too lengthy, too rigid, too complex, and he said the Constitution will not survive. Very pessimistic conclusion. We know today that Constitution has survived. It has strengthened itself. The irony is that Ivor Jennings drafted the constitution of Sri Lanka, which survived for 6 years. तो इन्होंने जो बनाया वो 6 years श्रीलंका जैसे छोटे देश में सर्वाइव किया, but Indian constitution we seen that 70 plus years we have survived. So the question is that what is that strength of the Indian constitution? क्यों इतना दिन चला? ऐसा क्या स्पेशल इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में कि it is working 70 plus years? क्या ऐसा स्पेशल? इवॉल्विंग नेचर, थोड़ा और इट बी मोर फोकस. कैसा इवॉल्विंग नेचर? पॉलिटिकल इंप्रूवमेंट की, पॉलिटी में इंप्रूवमेंट. ठीक है, जैसे एग्जांपल. ठीक है. हाँ, सॉरी, रिजिडिटी के बीच में बैलेंस. ठीक है, ठीक है, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी. बेसिकली कोई भी डॉक्यूमेंट हो, कोई भी स्ट्रक्चर हो, यदि वो सरवाइव करता है बिकॉज ऑफ द बैलेंस. इतना भी आसान ना हो चेंज करना कि हर एक दूसरे दिन चेंज हो, और इतना भी डिफिकल्ट नहीं हो कि चेंज होना ही मुश्किल हो. स्पेशली इन अ कंट्री लाइक इंडिया जहां पे चीजें बहुत फास्ट चेंज हो रही. So one reason why Indian Constitution has survived for so many years is that the amendment process given in Article 368. अभी हम देखेंगे amendment process, but Indian Constitution को 3 तरीके से amend किया जा सकता है. 2 तरीके हैं जो Article 368 में दिए हुए हैं कि you require special majority. Special majority means absolute majority of the total membership and 2/3 of this. So you require special majority. Second is special majority plus the consent of half of the states. यदि आपको कोई फेडरल चेंज करना रहेगा, so you require such kind of process. जैसे 73rd 74th amendment हुआ, हमने NJAC का जिक्र किया, so that was also having federal implication, तो वो हुआ. GST जब आया, जीएसटी का आपको पता है कौन सा अमेंडमेंट था जीएसटी का? 10, वो तो ईडब्ल्यूएस का था, ईडब्ल्यूएस वाला 101. सो ये सारे ऐसे चेंज है. एंड देयर इज अनदर वे ऑफ अमेंडिंग द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दैट इज आउटसाइड द स्कोप ऑफ 368, जिसमें कि सिंपल मेजॉरिटी से चीजें हो जाती हैं. जैसे यदि आपको नया स्टेट बनाना रहेगा, जैसे तेलंगाना बना, सिंपल मेजॉरिटी से बना. ठीक है, सो such changes happen. So one reason why Indian Constitution has survived for so long is इसमें चेंज करना आसान है. इन कंपैरिजन बहुत लोग क्या करते हैं कि इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को कंपेयर कर देते हैं यूएस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से, और क्या कहते हैं कि इंडिया में तो 106 अमेंडमेंट हो गए हैं अभी तक. कितने अमेंडमेंट हुए हैं? 106. 106 कौन सा अमेंडमेंट था? 106 अमेंडमेंट कौन था? लास्ट अमेंडमेंट जो हुआ है, any idea? 106th amendment, women reservation, women 1/3 reservation for women in Lok Sabha and state legislature. ठीक है. So people say that in India there has been more than 100 amendments, लेकिन US में only 27 amendments हुए हैं अभी तक, and they compare कि ये तो it's a bad thing for Indian constitution. And that also if you see in US constitution कब बन के तैयार हुआ था? 1787. The first 10 amendments were done in 4 years. यानी 1791 तक में पहले 10 अमेंडमेंट हो गए थे. बाकी के जो 17 अमेंडमेंट्स हुए हैं वो पिछले 230 सालों में, 230 साल. उनका जो लास्ट 27th अमेंडमेंट था वो 1992 में था, तो यू कैन इमेजिन किस टाइप की स्टेबिलिटी है. सो दे ऑफन कंपेयर द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कि ये क्या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है कि तो रोज चेंज ही होते रहता है, अमेंडमेंट ही होते रहते हैं. बट इंडियन स्कॉलर्स से कि यही इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का स्ट्रेंथ है कि ये चेंज हो सकता है, इट कैन बी अमेंडेड, अदरवाइज देयर विल बी लेसर एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी ऑफ दिस. एंड सेकेंडली, इट इज नॉट राइट टू कंपेयर यूएस constitution with Indian constitution, because in US there are 50 states and each states have their own constitution. तो मान के चलो कि 50 स्टेट ने दो दो अमेंडमेंट भी किया होगा तो भारत के तो बराबर हो गया ना, 100 प्लस हो गया. सो इट इज नॉट राइट टू कंपेयर. इफ दिस क्वेश्चन इज कमिंग बिफोर यू इन द इंटरव्यू कि somebody is saying कि वहां तो 27 अमेंडमेंट हुआ, यहां तो नेहरू के ही जीवन काल में 16 अमेंडमेंट हो गए, the very first year में ही पहला अमेंडमेंट हो गया. So you can defend that comparing Indian constitution with US constitution is not the right kind of comparison. And this is the strength of Indian constitution, it is not its weakness. तो पहला तो है कि it can be amended. Second strength is that there can be judicial interpretation. तो बहुत बार तो अमेंडमेंट करने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती. For example, right to privacy. Is it a fundamental right? Yes. ये संविधान में लिखा हुआ है? नहीं लिखा है, जुडिशरी ने बोला है. ठीक, ट्रू एग्जाम्पल ऑफ दिस. यानी संविधान में बदलाव किए बिना हमने राइट टू प्राइवेसी को फंडामेंटल राइट बना दिया. एंड देयर आर मेनी सच इंटरप्रिटेशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आर्टिकल 21 किस चीज से रिलेटेड है? राइट टू लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी. नाउ वहां पे एक शब्द लिखा हुआ है प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ. लिखा हुआ है कि राइट टू लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी कैन बी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड ओनली थ्रू प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ. इसका मतलब है कि आपकी लिबर्टी को लिमिट किया जा सकता है. यू कैन बी किल्ड बट ओनली थ्रू प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ. अब ये शब्द प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ एक डेफिनेशन है. But there was a very famous case in 1978, Menka Gandhi case, wherein Supreme Court said that when it comes to Article 21, then due process of law will apply. अब due process of law क्या है पता है? The difference between procedure established by law and due process of law. क्या? Procedure established by law and ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ. क्या डिफरेंस? एनी आइडिया? और ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ. अच्छा, जुडिशरी विल लुक इनटू दिस. ठीक है, लेकिन सारे कानून तो हो ही सकते हैं नल एंड वॉइड. आर्टिकल 13 ही कहता है कि इफ देयर इज अ लॉ व्हिच इज गोइंग अगेंस्ट फंडामेंटल राइट, इट विल बी डिक्लेयर्ड नल एंड वॉइड. लॉ लॉ तो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर को डैमेज कर ही नहीं सकता, अमेंडमेंट करेगा. लॉ इज अ सेपरेट थिंग, अमेंडमेंट विल डैमेज द बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है, तो एनीबॉडी एल्स, क्या है डिफरेंस दोनों में? सी, जब हम कह रहे हैं ना प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ, यहां पे जो फोकस है वो है प्रोसेस पे. प्रोसेस. ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ में जो फोकस है वो है ऑब्जेक्टिव पे. एग्जांपल के थ्रू समझिए. यदि मैं कहूं कि लॉ का जो आई एम गेटिंग दिस लॉ, कोई मैं कानून लेके आ रहा हूं, लेटर से राइट टू एजुकेशन कोई मैं लेके आ रहा हूं, इट इज अ लॉ जिसका ऑब्जेक्टिव है कि देयर शुड बी 100% लिटरेसी रेट एटलीस्ट एट प्राइमरी लेवल. ठीक है, ये एक ऐसा कानून लाया गया. ना इफ आई एम फॉलोइंग प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ, सो व्हाट आई विल डू कि मैं सबके लिए प्रोसेस सेम कर दूंगा. दैट मीन्स आई विल से कि आई एम एस्टैब्लिशिंग 100 स्कूल्स, इसमें जो भी जाएगा उसको फ्री क्वालिटी एजुकेशन मिलेगा, फ्री। प्रोसेस सबके लिए सेम है, बट हो सकता है इन बच्चों में से कोई कुछ बच्चे ऐसे हो हु आर डिफरेंटली एबल्ड, दिव्यांग है, they cannot come to the school. So if they will not be coming to the school, my objective will not be fulfilled. प्रोसेस तो हमने बराबर रख दिया। या फिर 100 स्कूल्स का मैंने, मेरी गवर्नमेंट ने ये कह दिया कि फ्रॉम नाउ ऑनवर्ड्स एट द प्राइमरी लेवल आप किसी स्कूल में जाए, राइट फ्रॉम गवर्नमेंट टू स्कूल्स लाइक संस्कृत स्कूल, आपसे पैसे नहीं लिए जाएंगे, गवर्नमेंट विल पे फॉर दिस। गुड एनफ, प्रोसेस सबके लिए सेम है। बट व्हाट अबाउट दो स्टूडेंट्स, somebody is blind, somebody cannot walk to the school, तो वो बच्चे तो रह जाएंगे। यानी हमने प्रोसेस सेम रखा बट ऑब्जेक्टिव अचीव नहीं कर पाए। नाउ व्हेन आई फॉलो ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ, आई विल बी ऑल्सो प्रोवाइडिंग फॉर सम मैकेनिज्म, दोज हु आर डिसेबल्ड उनके लिए ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में फॉलो करूं। सो इन दिस वे आई विल बी एबल टू अचीव द ऑब्जेक्टिव। तो हम क्या हुआ, प्रोसेस से अलग हटे लेकिन ऑब्जेक्टिव हमारा अचीव। इसका बेस्ट एग्जांपल है रिजर्वेशन सिस्टम इन इंडिया। इफ आई से प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश्ड बाय लॉ, सो मैं क्या कहूंगा कि ये एग्जाम है, मान लीजिए ब्रिटिश टाइम में ऑल इंडियंस वर नॉट अलाउड टू राइट द एग्जाम, स्टिल अ पॉइंट इजंट इट, इंडियंस को नहीं अलाउ किया जाता था एग्जाम लिखने के लिए। लेकिन यदि गवर्नमेंट ने ये डिसाइड किया कि ठीक है, everyone will get the chance to write the civil services exam, so this is the procedure established by law, हमने प्रोसेस बराबर कर, ठीक है, सबका एक कट ऑफ आएगा, whosoever qualifies will qualify as civil servant. But what about those who are historically disadvantaged? वो तो ऑब्जेक्ट, they are not at the same level, they will not be, तो जस्टिस तो नहीं सर्व हुआ, हमने प्रोसेस सेम किया, बस प्रोसेस सेम होने का मतलब जस्टिस नहीं होता। लॉ डज नॉट मीन्स justice, and therefore when I am providing reservation, यानी those who require help, ठीक है, उनके लिए कट ऑफ कम कर दिया जाएगा, तो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव जो है वो सर्व हो रहा है। सो हियर दिस corresponds with what we call as natural justice, natural justice, and this corresponds to what we call as procedural justice, procedural justice, कि बस प्रोसेस आप बराबर करके यू आर डन। हियर आप ये भी देख रहे हैं कि प्रोसेस तो आपने बराबर एक लेवल पे रखा, बट डज इट रिक्वायर फर्दर, ठीक है। सो इन मेनका गांधी केस सुप्रीम कोर्ट सेड दैट जब राइट टू लाइफ की बात आ जाएगी टू ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ अप्लाई होगा। संविधान में ऐसा कहीं नहीं लिखा हुआ है, बट अकॉर्डिंग टू द जजमेंट ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ अप्लाइज। Third reason why Indian Constitution has survived for so long is the political reason. Political reason. कि आपने देखा है कि initially कांग्रेस पार्टी का डोमिनेंस था, and कांग्रेस पार्टी was essentially a party of upper class, जो कि इकोनॉमिकली वेल ऑफ, जमींदार, ये सब उनके पार्टी हो। But right now, can we say that Indian politics is dominated just by the upper class? No. It is having proportional representation of upper class also, backward classes also, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe also. यदि ये political change नहीं हुआ होता, then maybe some point of time backward classes would have said, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes would have said, this constitution is not working for us, नहीं चाहिए, ठीक है, कुछ तो सिविल वॉर, कुछ तो वैसा हो जाता। But since politics has changed itself, ठीक है, there has been evolution, participation of backward classes and the Dalit community also, and therefore this increases the acceptability of the constitution. And that's why one of the political science scholar, Christophe Jeffrelot, says that constitution has resulted into a silent revolution in India. Silent revolution. Revolution क्यों? क्योंकि बड़ा चेंज आया है। वो कम्युनिटी जिसको कि आप अनटचेबल मानते थे, ठीक है, आप वल्नरेबल कम्युनिटी, उस कम्युनिटी के लोग दे आर एट द गुड पोजीशन इवन इन ब्यूरोक्रेसी। हमने प्रेसिडेंट का एग्जांपल दिया। सो देयर डेफिनेटली देयर हैज बीन अ रेवोल्यूशन। लेकिन जब आप पिछले 70 साल में देखते हैं तो आपको कोई बहुत बड़ा ब्लडशेड दिखता है क्या, जैसे चाइना में देखने को मिला, नहीं देखने। it has been a peaceful constitutional revolution. So Indian constitution has survived because of the three main reasons: amendability, political evolution and the judicial interpretation. इसको लिख दें, right? Right. The Indian constitution, has survived for more than 7 decades because of the following reasons. इसमें कुछ और पॉइंट्स ऐड करेंगे. First, the Constituent Assembly was an inclusive body, working on the model of deliberative consensus. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे मैंने लिखा है कि इट वाज एन इंक्लूसिव बॉडी, लेकिन क्या इंक्लूसिव बॉडी थी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली? कैन यू से दैट इट वाज एन इंक्लूसिव बॉडी? ठीक है, लेकिन नंबर्स आप देखेंगे तो इंक्लूसिव बॉडी तो नहीं लगती, कहीं से भी नहीं लगती इंक्लूसिव बॉडी. पॉलिटिक्स में, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज में किसका डोमिनेंस था? विच पॉलिटिकल पार्टी वाज डोमिनेटिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली? कांग्रेस. ऐसा नहीं था कि सोशलिस्ट पार्टी है उनका था. इन टर्म्स ऑफ रिलीजन कौन डोमिनेट कर रहा था? हिंदूज. 94% जो मेंबर्स थे हिंदूज थे. इन टर्म्स ऑफ कास्ट विच कम्युनिटी वाज डोमिनेटिंग? अपर कास्ट. एंड अपर कास्ट में भी ब्राह्मण्स. इनफैक्ट मिस्टर चर्ची ने कहा था कि इट इज नॉट कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली ऑफ इंडिया, रादर इट इज अ असेंबली ऑफ ब्राह्मण्स. ठीक है. इन टर्म्स ऑफ जेंडर कौन डोमिनेट कर रहा था? मेल, क्योंकि केवल 15 विमेन थी और देयर वाज ओनली 1 दलित विमेन. सो कहीं से भी ये इंक्लूसिव तो बॉडी नहीं लग रही है. ठीक है. इवन आप शेड्यूल कास्ट की भी बात करें तो देयर वर 28 मेंबर्स हु वर फ्रॉम शेड्यूल कास्ट. सो जेंडर की बात करें, रिलीजन, कास्ट, पॉलिटिक्स की बात करें, प्लस this body was not even directly elected भी तो बॉडी नहीं थी, या तो indirectly elected थी या फिर nominated लोग थे प्रिंसली स्टेट्स के. और भी जब वो इलेक्शन हुआ था, प्रोविंशियल इलेक्शंस, उसमें भी वेरी फ्यू पीपल, लेस देन अराउंड 10% पीपल हैड वोटेड, और उनको भी ये नहीं पता था कि these members are going to elect the members of constituent assembly. So if you look into the numbers, it was neither inclusive nor democratic. ठीक है. तो ये जो क्वेश्चन रेज किया जाता है, स्पेशली द राइटिस्ट पार्टीज हैव कॉल्ड दैट इट इज नॉट इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, इट इज कांग्रेस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. इफ वी गो इनटू द पॉलिटिक्स ऑफ इट, so if you look into the number, it is very well justified. numbers तो यही कहते हैं, बट फिर भी हम क्यों नहीं कह सकते कि it is just a Congress constitution? Because after looking at the 70 years, plus when we say that this assembly was working on the model of consensus, ऐसा नहीं था कि मेजॉरिटी से होती थी कि हाथ उठा दिया गया जिसकी मेजॉरिटी हो. इसमें यदि किसी भी मेंबर को कोई भी प्रॉब्लम रहेगा, that would be properly debated, discussed, and only after suitable amendment that would be accepted. अब कंसेंसस का मतलब ये नहीं कि 100% हर चीज पे लोग मानते थे. कंसेंसस मींस ड्राफ्ट इज गिवन, इफ यू हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम आप उसको रेज कीजिए we will take care of that, and then we will reach at a point wherein we will say कि ठीक है, it is now workable. You will be surprised कि reservation for women was proposed in the assembly and the women members themselves denied. We don't want reservation. We have been given equality and we believe that at the end of the day women 50% of the Indian population. So if we have the numbers, we don't want reservation. There were many Dalit community members who said we don't want reservation. So it was a model through consensus wherein सबकी बातों को सुना जाता था, ठीक है. And when we look at the result of it, कि यहाँ पे हम देख रहे हैं कि it was an assembly which was dominated by Hindus. बट स्पेशल राइट्स किसको दिए गए हैं? माइनॉरिटीज, ठीक है. इट इज एन असेंबली डोमिनेटेड बाय अपर कास्ट. स्पेशल प्रोविजन किसके लिए? SC ST एंड बैकवर्ड क्लासेस. इट इज अ असेंबली डोमिनेटेड बाय मेल मेंबर्स. स्पेशल प्रोविजन किसको दिए गए? women members. So the beauty of the constitution is that a majority community drafted a constitution for the minority, and this is the golden rule of democracy, wherein majority rules for the protection of minority. जिस दिन ये इंश्योर हो गया कि majority is ruling for the protection of minority, you can conclude that this is the best democracy. Otherwise देखा जाए तो mob lynching भी तो democracy है ना. 100 लोग खड़े हैं जिसमें से 90 बोल रहे हैं किसको मारो. That is very well a democratic decision. Is it the right decision? No. Because in a democracy, majority always works for the protection of वो तो ना base level है वो, that is the check that if minorities are feeling protected in your country, majority to protected. So when we look at the conclusion, then we say that of course it was an inclusive. Second point, right? Second, right? The amendment process. The amendment process is balanced. It's not as flexible as Britain, not as flexible as Britain, and not as rigid as US. US में there are two ways in which federal constitution can be amended. पहला, both the house will pass the bill to 2/3 majority and 3/4 of the state must agree to that. हमारे यहाँ क्या है? 1/2 है ना. Second is through national convention, यानी when 2/3 of the states they say कि there is a requirement of amendment, then उस process को initiate करते हैं. जितने भी 27 अमेंडमेंट हुए हैं वो इसी प्रोसेस के थ्रू है, इस प्रोसेस के थ्रू हुआ है, ठीक है. और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि उनको जरूरत नहीं पड़ता, दे हैव देयर ओन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. सो स्टेट लेवल में चेंज हो जाता है तो वैसा ही कोई बहुत बड़ा चेंज की जरूरत होती है, देन ओनली दे अमेंड द फेडरल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. थर्ड, राइट, बिकॉज ऑफ द लिबरल इंटरप्रिटेशन, because of the liberal interpretation of the constitution, where judiciary has read into the silences of the constitution, the silences of the constitution. Okay, silences of the constitution means जहां पे confusion रहे, ambiguity रहे, और ये काम दिया गया है सुप्रीम कोर्ट को, जहां भी confusion रहे सुप्रीम कोर्ट will interpret. क्योंकि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर मैंने बताया, बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर कहीं भी नहीं लिखा हुआ है कि कोलिजियम सिस्टम, हमारे संविधान में कोलिजियम का शब्द का जिक्र ही कहीं नहीं है, बट देन आल्सो कोलिजियम सिस्टम इज important. So reading into the silences of the constitution. Fourth, because of the political changes wherein the non-dominant sections wherein the non-dominant sections have been included through the electoral process. Conclusion लिख दीजिए, right? Conclusion. Therefore, we can conclude that the Constitution has been the main factor behind the strength of Indian democracy, full stop. What West has seen, इसमें ब्रैकेट में लिख दीजिए आइवर जेनिंग्स और उनका आइवर जेनिंग्स यहीं पे too lengthy, too rigid, too complex. What West has seen, in bracket Ivor Jennings, too lengthy, too rigid, too complex. Close the bracket. What West has seen as the weakness of the Constitution is actually its strength. Okay. Now, a connected debate is that बहुत बार ये कहा जाता है कि we require a new constitution. इलेक्शन से पहले भी कहीं से ऐसे स्टेटमेंट्स आ रहे थे, right? That we require new constitution and all. This debate has been there for last 20 years. ऐसा कहा जाता है कि जब on an average 17 years survive करते हैं, so why can't we have a new constitution? In this direction, there was a kind of effort made by the NDA government when then a body was set up, NCRWC, National Commission for the Review of Working of Constitution. Okay, this body was set up after the completion of 50 years of Republic. That means 1950 से 2000 50 years जब complete हुए. This commission was set up under Justice Venkat Chellaiya, and ऐसा माना जाता है कि गवर्नमेंट का ये सोच था कि if the commission is recommending कि lot of changes are required in the constitution, so this can be a reason or excuse to change the constitution. क्योंकि बहुत सारे amendment करने हैं, तो natural conclusion would be कि शुरू से ही constituent assembly बुला के इसको change कर दो. Surprisingly, NCERTs said that the constitution has evolved over a period of time. It has been a living document, and therefore no major change is required in the constitution. ये तो कमिटी ने कहा. Now for us the question is कि यदि if we want to change the constitution, is it possible? Now इस पे different scholars have different views. Scholars say that changing or getting a new constitution is neither desirable nor feasible. यदि हम चाहे भी तो नया संविधान इस पॉइंट पे नहीं बना सकते. Because if you look in 1947, those people who were in the Constituent Assembly, and this is the opinion of Folius Nariman, one of the important jurists of India. He says that people who are the members of the Constituent Assembly, उन्होंने देखा था कि what foreign rule appears like. So they very well knew that what is the value of rights, what is the value of our own country, democracy. The present generation does not know about this. Second, the kind of politics that was followed then, it was an inclusive politics. शायद आपको पता होगा कि जब डिवीजन हुआ, when Bangladesh was created, East Pakistan was created, then Ambedkar जिस constituency से elect होके आते थे बंगाल से, that went into Pakistan, and therefore Ambedkar lost his seat. It was Congress party which supported Ambedkar to get elected and come to the house. And Ambedkar he very categorically said that I am here to represent the depressed classes. But it was Nehru and the Congress party which said, no, you are a person who knows about the constitutions and law, and you are the best person to be the chairman of the drafting committee. Now, can you imagine in present politics that one party is helping the leader of other party to get elected from seats? It is not possible. Thirdly, इट इज ऑन द रिकॉर्ड कि यदि कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली जब वर्क कर रही है, किसी कारण से यदि 10 मिनट लेट हो जाता था तो द असेंबली वुड सिट फॉर 10 इयर्स 10 मिनट्स मोर, सो दैट वो टाइम लॉस नहीं हो. बट अभी आपको पता है कि हाउ द पार्लियामेंट वर्क्स, राइट, सो मेनी डिस्ट्रप्शंस. एंड he says that even if we are able to make a constitution, it would not be an inclusive constitution, because present politics is divided across religion, caste, ethnicity, language. अभी आप देख रहे हैं लैंग्वेज वाला इशू कितना चल रहा है. So even if we make, it will not be an inclusive and therefore और desirable भी नहीं है. आपने कोई ऐसा मूवमेंट देखा है जिसमें लोग बाहर रोड पे निकल रहे हैं, बोल रहे हैं कि संविधान बदलो? Nobody is talking about this. In fact, in India, people believe in the constitution. In fact, average Indian who is not even literate, okay, he may not be knowing कि संविधान में कितने आर्टिकल्स हैं, फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं. He also says कि संविधान है तो सब कुछ ठीक चल रहा है. So somehow people believe in the constitution, and if you are speaking against that, people will not take it in a good manner. So neither it is desirable nor it is feasible, and constitution is working in right manner. एक दो we'll see. Just look at this question. I think you'll be able to. It has been asked in 2002 in prelims. क्या ऑप्शन होना चाहिए? C. ठीक है. That means elected by the legislative assembly of various provinces. Look at this question. Anything else? A. क्या होना चाहिए? A. Final. The Constituent Assembly of India was elected by the provincial assemblies in the year 1946. तो elected by तो है, confusion 1946 को लेके हो रहा होगा. ठीक है. A is the correct option because rest of the three are wrong. Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Gandhi, they were not the member of Constituent Assembly. The first session of the मैंने लिखवाया था, 3 dates important है. First session 9 December 1946, adopt किया गया था 26 November 1949, or it came in force on 26 January 1950. So 3 statements are wrong. First is the right one. This was asked in 2013. सी इलेक्टेड बाय द प्रोविंस। ठीक, तो चलो थैंक यू। सो दिस चैप्टर कंक्लूड्स हियर। आप इस चैप्टर को पढ़ लेना, ठीक है। एनी डाउट यू कैन आस्क इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास एंड यू कैन आल्सो ट्राई सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चंस व्हिच इज गिवन एट द बैक ऑफ दिस चैप्टर। ठीक है, थैंक यू। नेक्स्ट क्लास विल स्टार्ट फंडामेंटल राइट्स।